Hey everyone, it's Ivan, kitbachelor.com, out here for another gear review, and today, a little departure from my regular stuff. We're talking ice cream makers. This one right here by Cuisinart. Well, usually I pretty much stick to relatively strict carnivore. I love ice cream. And when you want good ice cream, I don't know, there's only certain places you can go. And having an ice cream maker actually gives you full control over set ingredients. So you can make really good, like healthier than you would otherwise have ice cream. And it also just a really fun thing to do with my boys, to include getting to just explore all kinds of fun recipes and things like that. So probably over a year ago now, I ended up actually buying this, and there'll be links to all this stuff down below, but ended up picking this up and have since used it a ton. As far as the ice cream unit itself, there is this piece here, which actually has the motor and basically run it. And then you have this piece, which this is what you actually make the ice cream in. And you keep it in a deep freezer or a freezer for at least a solid day or so. And the material inside there, it'll basically bring it down to temp, and that will keep it cold enough so that you can make your ice cream. And then of course we have this piece which drops in, churns it, and this piece basically covers it, holds this in place. So, yeah, we'll make some ice cream real quick. The unit comes with this booklet, and inside there's actually a ton of different, pretty amazing recipes. The one I kind of always find my way back to though is the vanilla one, because it lets you kind of make anything. So in your kitchen, you'll pull this thing straight out of the freezer, immediately throw it in. And then, having made up your ice cream batter, we'll say, you'll basically just pour it into that container. And once we've done that, this mixer goes on, and then this piece, which basically, if it doesn't immediately settle, you just turn it until it kind of drops in. Right there, dropped in. And then we turn it on and hang out for about 15 minutes. And after about 15 minutes, you start to get this consistency, which is where you want to start adding things if you're going to add anything to this ice cream. Also, if you're making ice cream where it's less than 10 degrees out, that 15 minutes happens a lot quicker, usually about like 8 or 9 minutes. In your kitchen at ambient like 70 degrees or whatever, probably take about 15 minutes. But the beauty of vanilla ice cream, it's a great base for all kinds of things. A fun one is just basically Nutella. This is like knockoff Nutella, but hazelnut. And you, looks amazing. Shouldn't have done that yet. But basically scoop kind of however much you want. Another fun one my boys like is Oreos. Cut those up, or fresh raspberries, which is also incredible. Those you basically just kind of break apart, unless you want whole frozen raspberries in there. And once you kind of put however much you want in there, you let it kind of finish doing its thing, and it mixes up, usually about 5 more minutes. And once you get to this phase, you're pretty much done. Usually it'll stay a little bit softer than this, again, inside temperatures, but good indicator that you're basically done when it stops wanting to basically churn around inside there. And it's time to, either eat it or put it away. Once we're done, we just turn it off. This piece comes off, we can set that aside. And then this guy, depending on how cold your ice cream is and how cold the ambient is, a bunch will be on it. You can, I found this to be super helpful. KitchenAid makes it, I guess, basically it's like a rubber spatula, rubber spoon, and it is really handy for this task, not to mention scraping it out of inside there. What you don't want to do is use something abrasive, because that, if that gets messed up, then now you have an abrasive spot on there, and this won't do as good of a job actually churning it up to make your ice cream. So don't use anything abrasive, but get most of it off there. If you're a little kid, you're like, I want to get everything off there. And then we put in a container. These quart container, I guess, 2 pints. These are really handy. You can get them with these silicone lids. They're made for ice cream, but they work really well. And so usually I'll put it down in there, and you want to try and kind of get as much oxygen out of there. So kind of press it in as you go and fill this guy up. Usually, I say usually, because some of my batter actually ended up spilling a little bit. Weird coming all the way out here. But like the ice cream batter per se, with pretty much all these recipes, it'll give you at least a quart. When I say at least a quart, I mean usually it's over a quart. And so we are talking quart, 2 pints. I'm bad with those. Imperial stuff doesn't make a ton of sense, especially compared to metric, but it's what we got. Thanks, public schools. So yeah, usually this would be full and then some. So what I'd usually end up doing is fill this guy up, throw this in the freezer once I'm done. You can't eat it right now. Usually I like to leave it in the freezer, and it generally, at least this recipe I usually use, it'll firm up a little bit more without getting like rock hard, but it's really good. And then there'll usually be some left over, so I'll use something like this. These Talenti gelato. These containers are really handy. Also, sometimes I'll just put all of that in a couple of these, which is awesome. And as I mentioned, there'll be some kind of in there and it'll be stuck. And so being able to use something like this, which is semi-rigid but won't scratch this, lets you actually go through, and using some force, you can scrape out the rest of the ice cream. Also, something worth mentioning, if, again, you're not making this out where it's somewhere below 10 degrees Fahrenheit, this will end up warming up in your kitchen when you're making ice cream. So you can't really make back-to-back batches. Usually what I'll end up doing is I will make the ice cream mix first, and I'll usually make a couple batches, let them sit overnight, come back down to temperature, because you want all of your ingredients as cold as possible. And then in the morning, I'll make a batch, go ahead, clean this thing out as best I can, put it back in the freezer, and then in the evening, I'll make a second batch. That's usually how I'll do it. And then depending on how much is built up around here, I'll actually go ahead and, again, nothing abrasive, use like a sponge with a little bit of, it doesn't even need to be really warm water, but basically wash this thing out, let it dry for a minute, and throw it back in the freezer, and get ready to make more ice cream. This ice cream maker is pretty rad. It's a ton of fun, and it's really awesome on a couple different fronts. One, as a father of a couple of boys, it's something you get to do together. And who doesn't want to enjoy doing something fun with their kids, and you get ice cream at the end of it. Not to mention, you're just like, cool, you do you. Like if you want to cut up gummy worms and mix them with whatever else you find in there, like, all right, see how this comes out. And there's a ton of different recipes, both in that book as well as tons and tons of stuff online. And it's fun, honestly, to just explore and experiment. One of my favorites actually is coffee, making coffee ice cream. I'll start with that vanilla base, and then I'll basically make some like really condensed coffee, either decaf or regular, depends on what you want when you're gonna eat it. And you don't want to put too much liquid in there, but usually I'll end up with like maybe a quarter cup of like insanely strong coffee, like almost syrup. Pour that in there, and then again, whatever else you want to put in there, whether it's Nutella or coffee and Oreos, is actually pretty amazing. But tons and tons of opportunities there. And coming back to health, you're like, what's healthy about ice cream? Well, it's a spectrum. So you can go buy like really crappy store-bought ice cream, and you can honestly make really crappy ice cream. And I say crappy, just like low quality ingredients. Or you can go get really high quality, like organic ingredients, if that's important to you. And depending on dietary restrictions, you can also do stuff like a lot of places now you can find A2, both milk and cream, which are usually really helpful depending on, again, dietary restrictions. And as a quick aside, if you want to make ice cream basically anywhere, I was using a Yeti 1K by Goal Zero. Thing's pretty awesome, giant power bank. But I've actually had this unit, been using it for over a year now. I've made a ton of ice cream, lots of times leading up to the holidays, like Christmas especially. Just start making a bunch of ice cream. Like I said, usually make a batch in the morning, batch in the evening, clean it out, throw it back in the freezer, and basically work through making about 2 batches a day. And pretty fun. One, giving it away for like Christmas presents, and the other one, bringing it to Christmas parties. And it's a good place to just kind of experiment, make some wild flavors, because people are going to eat it like it's ice cream. What's not to like? But this thing, like I said, got a lot of value out of it. Been a lot of fun, especially with my boys. And if it's something you're interested in, there'll be links down below. You can go check it out. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.